TheJamies.net.
The Norfolk Cruise Terminal is located along the Elizabeth River in Norfolk, Virginia. Embarking on a cruise there offers the opportunity to enjoy some interesting sightseeing as your ship sails along the Elizabeth River through Hampton Roads toward the Chesapeake Bay and beyond. In this video, we'll highlight 18 points of interest we saw as our ship, the Carnival Sunshine, departed the Norfolk Cruise Terminal in April 2026. Just a quick note that if you enjoy this video, please give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. It really helps our channel. And consider subscribing so you get alerted when we add new videos. If you're interested in following along as your ship sails away from the Norfolk Cruise Terminal, we've linked to a copy of our notes in the description below. Our first point of interest was the Norfolk Cruise Terminal area itself, which sits near mile marker 0, or the northern entrance, for the Atlantic Intracoastal Waterway. The waterway is a federally maintained inland route that runs along the Atlantic coast all the way to Florida. It's a protected system of rivers, sounds, and canals designed to allow smaller vessels to travel the coast while avoiding the open Atlantic Ocean. Our ship was docked facing southeast, so our cruise began by heading in that direction toward Washington Point and the entrance to the Intracoastal Waterway. Our ship then turned 180 degrees to face northwest, heading out along the Elizabeth River toward the Chesapeake Bay and the open ocean. The next point of interest was the USS Wisconsin, which was located off the starboard side or right side of our ship near the cruise terminal. The Iowa-class battleship served in World War II, Korea, and the Gulf War, and was one of the largest and last battleships built by the U.S. Navy. Today, the ship is part of Nauticus, a maritime museum where visitors can go aboard and explore portions of the ship. The third point of interest was the Naval Medical Center Portsmouth, which was located off the port side, or left side, of our ship. The hospital has been operating since 1830, making it one of the Navy's oldest medical facilities. Because of the glare from the setting sun, it was actually easier to see the medical center after our ship had passed it, and we were looking back across the river. The next point of interest was Fort Norfolk, which was located off the starboard side of our ship. The fort dates back to the late 1700s, when President George Washington called for a series of coastal defenses to help protect American ports. It was used during both the War of 1812 and the Civil War. Today, the site is maintained by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and is open to the public free of charge. The fifth point of interest was the Midtown Tunnel, which our ship passed over as we continued along the river. Since the tunnel itself was underwater, we used the buildings and roadway along the shoreline on the starboard side of our ship to find its location. The original tunnel opened in 1962, and a second tunnel was added in 2016. The newer tunnel was the first deep-water, all-concrete, immersed tube tunnel built in North America. It was constructed using 11 prefabricated concrete sections that were lowered into a trench along the riverbed. The next point of interest was the Portsmouth Marine Terminal, which was located off the port side of our ship. At the time of our cruise, the terminal was being used as a staging area for Dominion Energy's Coastal Virginia offshore wind project. We could see several parts of the large monopiles that were used for the wind turbines being installed off the Virginia coast, including some that were standing upright near the waterfront. The seventh point of interest was the U.S. Navy's magnetic treatment facility at Lambert's Point, which was located off the port side of our ship. Steel ships can gradually become magnetized over time, And that magnetic field can cause certain types of underwater mines to detonate. The magnetic treatment facility uses powerful electrical pulses to reduce that magnetic effect, and it's the only facility on the East Coast that can accommodate aircraft carriers. The next point of interest was Norfolk Southern's Lambert's Point Coal Terminal, which was located off the starboard side of our ship. Coal has been shipped from the location since the 1860s, and it's now the largest coal loading facility in the Northern Hemisphere. A lot of the coal arrives by train, and the terminal includes around 150 miles of track. To get a better sense of how much rail is packed into the facility, we recommend opening your phone's Maps app, then switch to satellite view and zoom in on the yard. The terminal can load 2 ships at the same time at a combined rate of up to 8,000 tons per hour. Most of the coal is used in steel production and exported around the world. The 9th point of interest was Virginia International Gateway, which was located off the port side of our ship. It's one of the Port of Virginia's 2 main container terminals. The terminal specializes in shipping containers filled with consumer goods, industrial products, and agricultural exports. It also has on-dock rail service, which lets containers move directly between ships and rail without ever leaving the terminal. The next point of interest was the U.S. Coast Guard's Sector Virginia, which was also located off the port side of our ship, just beyond Virginia International Gateway. The unit handles maritime safety, security, and environmental protection in the region, including search and rescue, port security, and vessel inspections. The 11th point of interest was the Craney Island Fuel Depot, which was also located off the port side of our ship. The facility stores jet and marine fuel in large storage tanks and supplies it through an extensive pipeline system. The depot helps keep Navy ships fueled and ready at the nearby naval station. The next point of interest was the dredged material management area in the north part of Craney Island, which was located off the port side of our ship, just past the fuel depot. The site receives material that's removed from the harbor during dredging operations to help keep the channels deep enough for large cargo ships and naval vessels to move through Hampton Roads. Parts of the area have also been repurposed over time for environmental restoration and future port expansion. The 13th point of interest was Norfolk International Terminals, which was located off the starboard side of our ship. It's the largest container terminal operated by the Port of Virginia, and it can handle some of the largest container ships currently operating in the Atlantic Ocean. The next point of interest was Naval Station Norfolk, which was also located off the starboard side of our ship, just past Norfolk International Terminals. It's the largest naval complex in the world and is home to the U.S. Atlantic Fleet, along with dozens of warships and aircraft. If you want to learn more about the vessels docked there, the U.S. Navy's website lists the ships currently based at Norfolk, and clicking on a ship's hull number brings up general details like its name and type, as well as when and where it was built. We've linked to the website in the description below. The 15th point of interest was the Monitor Merrimack Memorial Bridge Tunnel, which we could only see in the distance off the port side of our ship as we moved into the wider harbor. It's located near the site of the 1862 Battle of Hampton Roads, a Civil War battle where the ironclad USS Monitor fought the ironclad CSS Virginia, which was built from the remains of the salvaged USS Merrimack. The battle ended in a draw, but it showed that wooden warships were quickly becoming obsolete. The next point of interest was the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, which we passed as we moved through the harbor. It connects the Hampton and Newport News side of the waterway with Norfolk and Virginia Beach. The bridge tunnel carries more than 100,000 vehicles a day, far more than it was originally designed to handle. At the time of our cruise, construction was underway on a $3.9 billion expansion project, which is expected to be completed in the spring of 2027. The project will expand the bridge tunnel to 4 lanes of traffic in each direction. The 17th point of interest was the Chamberlain, which was located off the port side of our ship. The original hotel opened in 1896. After a fire destroyed the hotel, the current building was built in its place in 1928. Because of its size and location, the Chamberlain has long been a familiar landmark for boaters coming back toward the harbor. It's now a retirement community and remains one of Hampton's most recognizable historic buildings. Our final point of interest was the Fort Monroe National Monument, which was also located off the port side of our ship, near the Chamberlain. The fort was once a major coastal defense site, and it played an important role as a safe haven for enslaved people during the Civil War. It became known as Freedom's Fortress and is part of the nation's broader story of emancipation. As the sun set on our sailaway, our ship continued toward the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel and beyond. That brought our 90-minute tour to a close, featuring busy industry, naval installations, and historic landmarks.